Have you ever stopped to think about how a plant that once kept whole communities alive during famine could later be dismissed as a nuisance, outlawed, or treated like an enemy? This story is about species that simply refuse to disappear. Plants so tough, nourishing, and persistent that people first relied on them, and later tried to wipe them out. These are the lost superfoods. They sprout without being planted, endure fire, drought, and neglect, and return again and again, no matter how often they are pulled up. One of them supports the soil, livestock, and humans alike, yet is still labeled a problem. After this, you may never look at weeds the same way again. 1. Portulaca oleracea, the superfood turned weed. If you've noticed small, fleshy, bright green leaves creeping through pavement cracks or spreading across garden soil, you've likely seen Portulaca oleracea, better known as purslane. It may seem insignificant at first glance, easy to ignore or remove, but this modest plant has nourished people for millennia. It's one of the hardiest and most nutrient-rich edible greens in existence. A plant with ancient roots, purslane is anything but modern. Evidence shows it was used as food in ancient Mesopotamia and Egypt. Cultures across Europe, Asia, and the Americas grew it as both nourishment and medicine. Yet today, large-scale farming often treats it as a pest. Because purslane grows vigorously in disturbed soils, tolerates drought, and withstands many control methods, it disrupts monoculture systems. In crop fields, it competes effectively for space and resources. Not because it's harmful, but because it thrives too well in environments designed for fragile, high-maintenance crops. Nutritional strength in disguise. Purslane's value is extraordinary. Omega-3 fats. It's one of the rare land plants rich in alpha-linolenic acid, ALA, an essential fatty acid, vitamins and minerals. High in vitamin C, beta-carotene, vitamin A precursor, magnesium, potassium, and iron. Antioxidants. Contains betalains and protective phytonutrients. Protein and fiber. Offers both, supporting digestion and satiety. In short, purslane is a nutrient-dense survival food hiding in plain sight. Built to survive. Once it takes hold, purslane is remarkably persistent. It flourishes in heat and drought that would wipe out many vegetables. It spreads through seeds, hundreds from each plant, and even small stem pieces can root and regrow. It asks for almost nothing, little water, no special soil, and minimal care. It naturally covers exposed ground, reducing erosion and protecting soil. From garden to table. Its crisp, juicy stems and leaves have a mild tang, almost lemony. It works raw in salads, blended into drinks, or cooked like spinach. The seeds are edible too, with a nutty taste, and can be ground or sprinkled over food. Around the world, it appears in traditional dishes: Mediterranean salads with oil and lemon, Middle Eastern stews with legumes and spices, Mexican verdolagas, dishes with meat or beans. Why it's called a weed? Purslane isn't rejected because it lacks value. It's rejected because it grows outside controlled systems. In industrial farming, anything that competes with monoculture crops is labeled a weed. Its independence is its crime. For gardeners and foragers, though, purslane is a blessing. Self-sufficient, nourishing, and nearly indestructible. A true forgotten superfood. 2. Lamb's Quarters, Chenopodium album. Lamb's Quarters highlights the contradiction at the heart of modern agriculture. It arrives uninvited, grows vigorously, and ignores planting rules, earning it the weed label. Yet nutritionally and ecologically, it's incredibly valuable. This species thrives where soil has been disturbed: farms, gardens, construction sites, almost as if it follows human activity. Its young leaves are tender and mild, much like spinach. Cooked, they soften and develop a rich, earthy flavor. Unlike cultivated greens, lamb's quarters grows with minimal water or soil quality and often prospers where other plants fail. Nutrient density. It contains more calcium than spinach, magnesium for nerve and muscle health, iron for blood health, vitamins A and C. Notable amounts of plant protein. For many traditional communities, this made it a crucial fallback food when crops were scarce. Cultural importance. Historically, it was widely eaten, in Europe as a spring green, in India as bathwa used in breads and curries. by Native Americans who ate both leaves and seeds. It's even related to quinoa, a cultivated descendant now sold as a premium health food. Conflict with modern farming. Its rapid growth and unpredictable sprouting market clash with industrial systems. It doesn't line up neatly, and it competes effectively for sunlight and nutrients. Yet in natural systems, this is beneficial. It shields soil, prevents erosion, and efficiently captures energy. Its roots draw minerals upward, enriching the surface soil as it decomposes. Nature sees this as soil regeneration. Industrial agriculture sees competition. A lesson in resilience. Lamb's quarters shows what a resilient food plant looks like: nutritious, adaptable, and independent. It feeds people and improves soil without demanding constant care. That's not a weed. That's survival wisdom growing at our feet. 3. Plantain, Plantago major. Plantain, not the starchy tropical fruit, but the low-growing wild herb, is one of the most widespread and underestimated plants you'll find. It shows up everywhere, between paving stones, along footpaths, in lawns, and on compacted roadside soil. Though most people dismiss it as an ordinary weed, plantain is actually one of the most useful edible and medicinal plants growing in the wild. Its leaves grow in a flat rosette close to the ground, wide, green, and marked with strong parallel veins. When young, the leaves are soft enough to eat fresh in salads. As they mature, they become tougher and are best cooked, steamed, or added to soups, which softens their fibers. Nutritionally, plantain leaves provide vitamins A, C, and K, along with important minerals such as calcium, magnesium, and potassium. They're also rich in fiber and contain natural compounds known for anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial effects, which is why plantain has long been valued both as nourishment and as herbal medicine. The plant's roots are edible as well and have been traditionally used to support digestive health. Fresh leaves can be crushed and applied directly to the skin to help soothe minor wounds, insect stings, and irritations. Above the leaves rise slender stems topped with small, subtle flowers that later produce countless tiny seeds. These seeds spread easily, allowing plantain to colonize poor soils and damaged ground without any help from humans. One of plantain's defining traits is its toughness. It handles dry conditions, heavily compacted earth, and constant foot traffic, situations where most plants would fail. That endurance, combined with its food value and healing properties, makes plantain a true superweed, a plant that grows freely, benefits human health, and resists removal. When you start to see its worth, plantain stops being a nuisance and becomes a dependable resource. You can harvest its leaves repeatedly throughout the season, and even when left untouched, it plays an ecological role by stabilizing soil and contributing organic matter. Plantain is a reminder that some of the most practical plants grow quietly in overlooked places, offering nutrition, medicine, and environmental support. Simply put, plantain is a survivor. It nourishes, heals, and flourishes where many cultivated plants cannot. It's a wild edible that earns respect through sheer usefulness and resilience. A valuable ally for foragers and gardeners alike. 4. Amaranth. Amaranth stands among the oldest crops cultivated by humans, and its story shows how closely food systems and power structures intertwine. Long before industrial farming, this plant sustained entire societies. For the Aztecs and other civilizations of Mesoamerica, amaranth wasn't just a staple. It was central to life. It produced abundant seed, matured quickly, and thrived under intense heat, drought, and nutrient-poor soils where other crops struggled. Its seeds were milled into flour, boiled into porridges, and shaped into ceremonial foods, while its leaves served as a daily green vegetable similar to spinach. When Spanish colonizers took control, amaranth cultivation was intentionally targeted. Fields were destroyed, seeds burned, and growers punished. The issue wasn't that the plant lacked value, it was the opposite. Amaranth enabled self-reliance. A crop capable of feeding communities without imported grains or colonial supply chains represented independence. By suppressing it, colonizers weakened both cultural traditions and food security. Despite these efforts, amaranth endured. Today, it still appears across open fields, roadsides, and disturbed ground. In large-scale agriculture, many species, often called pigweed, are now considered troublesome weeds. They grow rapidly, compete strongly with crops, and in some cases have evolved resistance to herbicides. Farmers invest heavily in attempts to remove them. Yet nutritionally, amaranth remains exceptional. Its seeds offer complete protein, including lysine, which many grains lack. They also provide iron, calcium, magnesium, and dietary fiber. The leaves are tender, mild in taste, and rich in vitamins A, C, and K. Across parts of Africa, Asia, and Latin America, amaranth continues to be cultivated intentionally as both a grain and leafy vegetable because it produces high nutrition with minimal resources. Amaranth was labeled a problem not because it was weak, but because it was strong, independent, and difficult to control within systems built on chemical inputs and centralized food production. 5. Dandelion. Few plants are judged as harshly as the dandelion. Lawns are sprayed to kill it, tools are designed to dig it out, and entire industries profit from its removal. Yet this so-called nuisance is completely edible, highly medicinal, and ecologically valuable from root to flower. Dandelion leaves rank among the most nutrient-packed greens you can find, supplying calcium, potassium, iron, and powerful antioxidants. The roots have a long history in herbal traditions, especially for supporting liver health, digestion, and the body's natural cleansing processes. When roasted, the roots even become a caffeine-free coffee alternative. The bright yellow flowers are not only edible but also vital for pollinators, offering nectar early in the season when few other blossoms are available. In nature, dandelions act as soil restorers. Their deep taproots penetrate hard, compacted ground, drawing minerals up from lower layers and depositing them near the surface. When the plant eventually dies back, those nutrients remain accessible to surrounding vegetation. Dandelions show up in areas that are worn out, damaged, or nutrient poor. Not randomly, but because their presence serves a purpose. They don't spread out of aggression. They spread because the soil calls for repair. Dandelions grow without irrigation systems, fertilizers, or protection. They establish themselves, stabilize ground, support insects, feed wildlife, and nourish people, all while being treated as unwanted intruders. The larger pattern amaranth, dandelion, lamb's quarters, purslane, Gliricidia. Though different species, they share a repeating story across time and geography. These plants don't depend on human care. They flourish in difficult environments. They tolerate drought, heat, poor soil, and neglect. At the same time, they nourish humans, animals, insects, and the soil itself. And that resilience is exactly why they earn the label weed. Modern agriculture favors crops that demand constant management. Watering systems, fertilizers, pesticides, patented genetics, and centralized supply chains. Plants that self-seed, regenerate naturally, and grow without permission challenge that framework. Not because they cause harm, but because they operate outside human control. Nature doesn't invent weeds, it provides remedies. These species appear in pavement cracks, abandoned lots, degraded lawns, and neglected fields precisely because those are the places most in need of healing. Once you recognize this, your perspective shifts. Bare ground no longer feels empty. Weeds stop being adversaries. The landscape begins to communicate, and these plants are part of its vocabulary. A plant that rebuilds soil, sustains life, endures extremes, and asks for nothing was never the enemy. The real issue is that we forgot how to pay attention.